Hello everyone, welcome to justjoin.it channel. We are talking today about continuous integration and continuous delivery. Our guest is Piotrem Nowak from Citi, and this is the moment when I give you the microphone and you can share the presentation, and good luck.
Thanks very much. Hello everyone, my name is Piotr. As it was mentioned, I work for Citi. And today we're going to talk a bit about CI/CD pipeline, which is part of DevOps. The purpose of this presentation is to introduce the concept of CI/CD pipeline, show an example of a fairly mature pipeline, so that people have a starting point when trying to figure out how such pipeline should look like in your own organizations. All right. There'll be a short introduction to DevOps. Then we'll look into CI and CD later. We'll make sure we understand the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment. Then there'll be a live example. That will be the majority of the presentation. And later there'll be some questions in case certain things are still not clear. All right. So I think the first question that people normally ask is, what is DevOps? So DevOps, just shortly, is essentially a practice that was created to speed up the delivery process for software development. And as such, it's a cyclic process, which works very well with Agile. We plan, we build, then we integrate, we deploy, operate, grab feedback from the users, and we basically repeat the cycle. So surely I'm not going to go into the details here, but there are a lot of tools that make it easy for us. Within our organization, we are using tools like Jira for issue tracking, Bitbucket for source control, some IBM tools for deployments. We've got Citi as well for continuous integration. We also use Jenkins. So Citi is a technology company. Apart from working in a financial domain, we have thousands of technologies around the world, and company pays a lot of attention into the proper tech stack, which makes it an excellent place to work. And that's why I will be showing you some of the practices that we follow within the company. I think that, again, another question that usually people ask is, why do you need CI/CD pipeline? Why do you need continuous integration, sometimes without the continuous delivery part? And the purpose of that is to make sure that when our development team works on an item, they can prepare the changes, and every single commit they make is creating a releasable package, something that we could potentially deploy in front of the users. But before the users, it usually is deployed in front of maybe other developers in some testing environments or QA teams, or potentially even internal users as part of the UAT testing. So the idea is that once you make a change, you want to integrate this with the changes that other people are working on, and then make sure that your changes are not breaking anything, with the use of automated tests and unit tests that we're going to be looking into. And then as a result of that, after every single commit, you have a release ready package, which is tested and gives you guarantee that what you're building is just adding new functionalities rather than introducing new bugs. And as a result of that, we no longer have issues on the release day where you have to resolve a lot of conflicts, and normally there is no time for that, because this is all integrated into your software development process. All right, so this is an example of a CI/CD pipeline. We'll be looking into each individual stage one by one, and sort of giving you an idea of what that means and what role it plays in the overall pipeline. So the first step is source control. So source control is where we track changes to our code base. And right now there is pretty much just one tool that everyone uses. It's called Git. In our company, of course, we also use Git. It allows you to track changes, compare different versions of the application. And if you would like to become a member, or you are already a member of a team and want to be more efficient, Git is definitely something that you should be looking at. Now, when I talk about Git, not really related to CI/CD pipeline, but I like to also always mention Git flow, which is a way of working with Git. We're not going to go into details, but if you've never heard about it, I think it makes sense for you to have a read. Atlassian has a lot of interesting articles about that, and who knows, maybe this will be the second session that we'll do with justjoin.it. Okay, so now as part of the source control, this is where a developer works on the code, makes their changes. What should happen next as part of the CI/CD pipeline? Normally, the second step is running unit tests. There should be already many unit tests in your code base, but of course, if you are adding new changes, we are trying to follow a TDD approach, test-driven development, which means test goes first. Some people also refer to this as red, green, green, where red indicates you write a test first, that test fails because you haven't wrote any code, that's why it's red, and then you make the test pass, which makes it green, and then the second green is for the refactoring. Normally, the first time you write code, it's not optimal, it requires some further refactoring, and this is why you have this second green, and we refer to this as red, green, green. So test-driven development, again, very important pattern to follow. It improves your quality of your code and makes it definitely more testable. So if you've never tried that, again, I think it's worth exploring the subject. And the unit tests for different technologies, they'll be using different suites. So JUnit for Java, Jasmine, Karma for JavaScript-related projects, and many more for other technologies. Once the unit test pass, this gives us confidence that what the changes we've made didn't break any functionalities of the components. Now, these are just unit tests, so they cover only components in isolation, but that gives us already some confidence that what we're doing is not introducing new issues. Now, after that, we need to build the artifact. So this is where we create that releasable package. Again, for different technologies, you'll be using different tools, probably Gradle or Maven for Java, NPM for JavaScript, and could be others. But the idea, the most important thing to remember is that as part of this stage, we're trying to create an artifact, something that we can deploy to the environment, and something that we can deploy to different environments as the same package. We want to avoid the situation where the artifact we're deploying to some testing environments and the artifact we're deploying to production environments, meaning the environments that actually end users will be using, are different. If they are different, then you're just introducing another place for potential issues. So again, very important, make sure that your artifacts are the same for all environments. Once we have the artifact, this is where we get into the actual deployment. So as I mentioned, this pipeline is fairly mature. So what this does is after the artifact is created, it would automatically deploy code to the test environment. Now, this has nothing to do with the end users. So this is only something that is available internally for other developers, for maybe QA teams, potentially some some people that are looking into automating tests. And then once you deploy this, you have something available to play around with. So historically, people would have maybe a dedicated testing team that would go into the system. If it's a web application, they would type in the URL, and then they would be looking into running some tests, quite often manual. So over the years, they would build a set of test scripts, and then they will be executing them. Now, depending on the size of your team and the number of these tests, that could take days or sometimes even weeks. Now, this was something back in maybe 5-6 years ago. This was extremely common. Now, what we are trying to do now, which is the second step, is we're trying to automate these tests. So we've got tools like Selenium or Fitness, in fact, as you can see here, that allows you to write those automated scripts. So a lot of the QA teams, if they haven't had any technical experience, they would try to get some exposure and maybe automate some of these tests. Now, there's a huge benefit of that, of course, which is the time saving. This, as opposed to unit tests, gives you another type of confidence, and maybe additional confidence that that the change you make is not breaking anything. Now, coming back to unit tests, if you have, let's say you're working on an Amazon website, this unit test could be testing, for example, like a calculator that sums up prices in your basket or number of products. Now, this is perfect. It works really well. You can probably unit test it very well. But the problem is that when we work on web applications, we have usually at least a couple components. So there'll be a backend component and a front-end component. Now, if someone is making changes from the backend, they can unit test those changes. But how do they validate that the backend will still work with the user interface correctly? And this is why the automated tests come into play. And this is why we need them. So this is another level of confidence. Of course, what we can see here is that in our pipeline, which again, I think it's fairly mature, what we did is we run the unit test and then we deployed it and then we run the automated test. What more could we do? Now there are a lot of possibilities. So you could have, for example, some performance tests being run if you have some requirements that that your application needs to behave under load. Maybe you are running that large online store, and on Black Friday you need to make sure that you can handle thousands of orders every second. Maybe you would like to validate that your application can still connect to third-party systems. Maybe you are connecting to another applications within the firm using SFTP, and you want to validate that the keys are still working. So all of these things you can integrate into your CI/CD pipeline. And I think every pipeline will be different depending on your use case. So it's quite important to try and understand what I would like to cover. Normally, I think the way this works is, at least this is how it works in our case, we built the initial pipeline and then we noticed over years, we noticed what issues we've been facing, and then we try to integrate those. If it was possible to integrate this into the pipeline to make sure that we can detect those issues as soon as possible, we would of course try and do that. Once we have that confidence that the package is ready to be deployed to production, we're reaching the deploy to production stage. And there are multiple tools that can help you with that. A lot of people use Jenkins, Team Citi. You could use Docker, AWS has their own technology. So it's really, there's a lot of choices. You just need to make sure that the choice you're making is the right one for you. But at this point, I would like to focus on a topic which sometimes differentiates teams and companies, which is what is the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment? So when people say CI/CD, as it was mentioned in the beginning, CD stands for continuous delivery. Some people still refer to it as continuous deployment, which is incorrect. But there is also a continuous deployment concept. So continuous deployment would mean that after you run your automated test, you're confident enough that you can automatically roll this out to production, and it's all automated. So from the time the developer makes a change, we go through the package and we automatically deploy it so it's available to end users. This is not usually the case. And this is where continuous delivery versus continuous deployment come into play, where in continuous delivery, you still need someone to approve that the package is ready to be released. Maybe that would be business users. Maybe you need to do it at a specific point in time if you're working on in a regulated environment. So that's the difference. It's not an automatic deployment, but it's something that you can do in an automatic way, usually with just a single click if you wanted to. So you have a choice. Do you want to run it now or do you want to run it later? But again, it's all automated, a single click that just allows you to roll this out into production. And once your application is running and users are using it, of course, it's extremely important to keep monitoring it. Again, there are a lot of tools. Spring has its own It has packages for that. We are using ITRS, but there are many others, many other tools. It's just important to make sure that you are actively monitoring your application, making sure that it works as expected. All right. So now, I hope this was a good introduction. Again, the purpose of this presentation is really to look into all of this in action. So we're going to now move on to the coding part. I'm just trying to. Okay, so this is our sample application that we'll be using as part of this demo. It was created for one of the events, and it's extremely simple. It has a list of companies that were attending an event, and then what this does, it has a single filter where you can type in any string, like for example letter C. You click filter, and then it will show you all the companies, all the company names that starts with letter C. So what we are going to be showing here is we'll be making a change that came from the business where they want us to modify the functionality of this application so that rather than showing the company that starts with C, it will be showing the companies that contain letter C. So if I remove this filter, you'll notice that there are some additional companies like Accenture where it does contain letter C, but it's not in the beginning. So that's why it was not put in the beginning. We also have two environments. So we have the test environment and a production environment. So if I open them both, test and production, you'll notice that right now they work in exactly the same way. So if I do this in test, it filters everything that starts with C. In production, operates in exact same way. So I'm going to close this out for now. And then we'll get into making these changes. So I'm going to open up IntelliJ, which is our IDE of choice. And again, we're not going to be looking into this in some security. So we're not going to be looking into this in detail because the functionality is extremely simple. But I just want to show you that the change is extremely trivial. So what we have here is we have our company service, which has a function a method called getByName, and it uses Java streams and the predicate starts with. So we're going to modify this to contains. That's all the change you would need to do. But let's do this the right way. Okay. So what is the right way? Well, first stage was source control. So we need to go in and create a branch. So we're going to open a bash window, and then we're going to say git checkout branch feature. I'm going to call it just join. And normally I call branches with the actual features. So for example, modify search string, but let's just make it extremely clear that we are doing this as part of justjoin.it. So we create a branch, and if you know Git flow, or I hope you will, if you don't, then I hope you read about it after the presentation. This is actually following the Git flow pattern. So we just created a branch. Now, once we have the branch, the next step is to make the change. But we're going to follow the TDD pattern, so test-driven development. Let's navigate to a test class for this particular function, and let's create a new test. So IntelliJ allows us to do this extremely quickly. So we click generate test method. All right, and we're going to call it test filter companies containing string. Now, what is our assertion? So if we take a look at the setup method, we see that our testing repository has 6 companies in it. Citi and CD, so the first two, they start with letter C. We also have Accenture that contains letter C, Bank of America that contains letter C. So after the change, we're expecting that we should be getting 4 out of these 6 companies. So let's write that down. So our expectation is that we're gonna get 6 results. But actually, before having a result, let's actually create this. So, a list of companies, result equals, and we need to call our method. Don't want to copy paste, so let's just write it down. Company service, get by name, and lowercase c. All right, and then we're expecting that the size of the result will be 6. All right, so remember, TDD is red, green, green. So our expectation is that once we run this test should fail. And actually, I also put the wrong assertion. I put 6. Of course, we're expecting 4. So we'll run this twice. We'll run this with the 6, which should fail. And with the 4. All right. So yeah, we see that its assertion failed. Its C actual is 2. So nothing will change if we change it to 4. So I'm just going to keep it like that. All right. Now, right away, what we can see is that I didn't really analyze this very carefully. I mean, there's already a method that does exactly that. So we're creating a duplicate. We might as well just remove it for now. Just not to have this too many tests that look exactly the same. All right. So now let's make the actual change. So we go back to the service class, and then we navigate to that method, and this is the change we need to make. Again, as I mentioned, it's very trivial. So we just modify this to contains, and now let's run this test again. All right, this is now running. Perfect. As we can see, the test was successful. So this is the first screen. Now, this code is so simple that we don't really need to do any refactoring. So we're not going to look into the service method again. But one thing we need to do before committing these changes into the Git repository is to verify that we haven't broken anything else, maybe that we didn't anticipate. It could be that some other methods or some other unit tests are using the same function. And we're impacting them. So we go in, run all tests, just one time. If we didn't do that here, this is where our CI/CD pipeline comes into play because it will be running all the unit tests. All right, but we can see all the tests are successful. So now we are ready to commit this. So let's do that. So I'm going to commit. I'm going to say modify search to use contain predicate. All right, of course we haven't staged it, so let's add all the changes. All right, so this is one change, this is the second change, that looks good. Let's commit this one second. All right, I'm not gonna push it yet, because first I would like to move into TeamCity, which is the tool that we're using in this presentation for running the unit test, automated test, and creating a package. So let's go to that TeamCity for now. All right, so this is our TeamCity instance. It's pretty simple. I'm going to make this a bit bigger. We have 2 configurations here. The first one is our CI/CD pipeline up until running automated tests. So what it will do, it will run all the unit tests. It will create a jar, which is our artifact, our package. Then it will deploy it to a test environment automatically. And then it will run end-to-end tests. So that's also something I'm going to show you. We have a Selenium test suite that contains of just a single test to demo this. And once this is deployed to the test environment, this Selenium will open that URL, and it will search for an actual string. As you will see, in this particular case, we designed it so that the test before and after is passing. So there's no issue there. This is just to make sure that we don't spend too much time on this. But I would assume that such a big change like we're doing here normally would mean that your end-to-end tests, or at least some of your end-to-end tests, would fail. All right. So for now, let's just make that change. TeamCity is configured so that it watches for the changes. So now if I push these changes, just remind the name of the branch. Okay. So if we push feature just join IT. right, we just create a new branch, and now we can look at Citi and let it figure out that there are some changes pending. So let's give it a second. Might just refresh this to speed it up a bit. Okay, so we can see already there's one pending change. It says commit modified search series contain predicates. That's exactly our change, and it will start running in just a second, and we'll be able to see. I'll try to show you the automated test. Make sure that the window is visible on the screen. If we don't see that, we'll try it again. All right, so it takes just under a minute to run. So the first step, of course, is source control. So we'll go to Bitbucket, and it will get the latest code for this branch, feature justjoin.it. Then it will run all the unit tests. It will create a package, deploy it to a test environment, and then it will run end-to-end tests. So we'll see all of that coming. It's just running now. You can see, a very nice progress bar. It's all green, which indicates that everything is successful. But this is all configurable. And while we're waiting, I might say that Citi is just one choice. Citi, for those who don't know, is owned by JetBrains, the same folks that created IntelliJ. You can use Jenkins or any other tool. I mean, AWS has their own. I'm actually using AWS here for the servers on which we're deploying this. Of course, these days, majority of this project would be using containers. So again, that's probably a conversation for another topic. But this is just for your information. This is just running on cloud VMs. All right, so we can see that the 4 tests passed. This is the unit test part, and now we should get our end-to-end Selenium test running. I'll try to catch the window. All right, so this is where we have, of course, Selenium tests. Normally, you would also store in Bitbucket. So we have a separate Bitbucket repository that contains all your test logic. This is where you want to make sure that you can manage your test in the same way that you manage code. All right, we see the window here. So as you can see, it navigates to our test URL, and then it searches for Citi, and it finds 2 company names, and that is a success. Of course, our logic from contains to start doesn't change anything here, because contains also, these are only 2 companies that contain Citi. But I hope you know this. So this end-to-end test, this could be anything. If you're having an online store, you probably want to make sure that all the core functionality is covered. So things like login, add to basket, checkout, pay, send an email, like all of these things you can automate. All right. So we are here now. So we can see that build number 118 was successful. Now, because it automatically deployed things to test environment, we can look into this actually. So as I mentioned, this is running on AWS. So now if I type in letter C, we can see that now I have many more companies that contain letter C. And in fact, I'm going to open also our production environment, which is what the end users will be using, just to show you that our production still has the old logic. So again, up until now, there was no change for the end users. All right. So the next step that I would like to show is how do you integrate your code into the main branch? Again, using the give flow pattern. So normally, I just deployed something from the branch. We can test it, and once it is ready, we would create a pull request. So this is our Bitbucket repository. We can go into pull request, and then we can create a pull request. The request to merge your chain branch, we can call it modified search. All right, it's loading. Just give it a sec. All right, so Bitbucket is fairly slow in here. All right, So we can see everything. So Bitbucket is one of the tools. There's a really nice UI, so you can see what the changes were. So we can see that we modified stats with contains. We can see that we modified. We actually added and removed the test case, but from the source control perspective, it looks like one test was modified. And then we can create that pull request. Normally, you would add here some reviewers, but because I'm holding this call myself, so I'm just going to create it and I'll approve it myself. Needless to say that there should be some gates not allowing me to approve myself or merge if I don't get approval from maybe some senior members of the team. Quite often, what is also integrated into Bitbucket, it could be some static code analysis like SonarQube, where before you can actually merge to the main branch, code needs to be analyzed, and then you need to address the test coverage, you need to address all the issues or vulnerabilities that you might have included. But let's assume that I'm good with that. Someone has reviewed that code, and they say it's fine, so we can approve it. And then once it's approved, you can merge it to the main branch. So I'm just going to do that. So I'm doing this from the UI, as you can see. That's quite convenient. But of course, you could also merge stuff from the actual Git bash command. Okay, so now let's. What you'll notice, and again, I'm not going to wait for that, but you'll notice is that our team Citi will figure out that there was a change to happen, and it will start the build of the develop branch. But I'm actually going to be quicker than that, hopefully, and I can run. Okay, let me maybe I will not be as quick as I thought. I'll try, and I'll tell you what I just did. We'll see if I only have one agent running on my computer. Okay, I was quick enough. So one agent means that only one build can run at a time. I didn't want to wait until this was merged to the main branch. Normally, this is what you would do. Like you wouldn't deploy something to production from a feature branch, but we're just trying to make it faster here. So what you see is I actually used a dependency feature in Citi where I can pick an artifact from a previous run. So I picked run number 118, which had my artifact. It's exactly the same artifact we deployed to test environment. So it's exactly the same product. And I assumed that I received approval, and now I can do the deployment. But this is the continuous delivery trick. Like I can do all of this with just a single click, which is, as you can see, I just did. So build number 67, it was successful. So now let's check. Let's check if production is updated. So as you can see, last time we checked, when we put letter C, it was only 8 companies. Now if we click it again, we have many more. Okay. So again, very quick, just a few seconds. Since I knew I wanted to roll this out to production, I was able to do that very efficiently. All right. I think that finishes the presentation or the live part. So let's go back to the actual presentation. But just maybe a few sentences of our company. So I work for the Citibank. I am a software development manager managing a team of 25 plus people in 3 regions. It's a global bank, of course, so it gives you that opportunity. As I mentioned, like we are a technology company, apart from being a financial institution. So we are using any technologies you can think of. That could what you see on this slide here, but things like KDB for columnar databases, which is maybe less common, but essentially any technology you can think of, you can find in Citibank. Now, what I would like to mention is that Citi invests a lot of money into the technology. So we have our own internal cloud systems, containers, OpenShift is being used, AWS, Google Cloud, like all of these technologies are being used in Citibank. So if you would like to make sure that you work with the latest technologies, my suggestion would be just go in and check out the roles on justjoin.it that we have open. And absolutely, if you have any questions relating to working for Citi, you can also reach out to me. I'll put my contact details again later on the slide. Now I think this is the end of the presentation. So back to you guys.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation. That was like, I think it was a very good introductory for someone who was never, let's say, set up CI/CD pipeline. I really like the pun hidden inside of the slides. Like, you are from Citi, like very serious business. And you are using Team Citi, which is not a Citi product, right? So, but going back to the serious stuff, basically, for someone who actually doesn't have CI/CD pipeline set up in their company, do you have any recommendations? Like, I believe like Team Citi is not very common choice among other companies. So, what was the biggest selling point for you to pick this particular CI/CD solution?
It's a very good question. I would like to say that CD, uses a lot of different tools. So Team CD is one of them that we used. I think a few years back, people would be using Jenkins, and then JetBrains created this product which just looked nicer and was able to integrate with some external plugins which worked really well. But again, Jenkins has evolved since then. So my suggestion would be pick something that is available. I mean, if nothing is available, it's probably a decision that you have to make with your team. But like all of them, they have their own advantages and disadvantages. I think the main idea is once you have your CI/CD pipeline, whether it's using TeamCity or Jenkins, it should be pretty straightforward to move it from one to another. So I don't think that will be a blocker. Some of them might be better integrated with the tools you're using. For example, if you are using OpenShift, Kubernetes, Docker, then it might be faster to create pipelines in tools that already provide, this sort of out of the box type plugins or integrations. But in the end of the day, all of them support command line, so you can write anything you want really and get this up and running.
Great answer. And yeah, once again, great presentation. I really liked the live coding session. I believe this was like the best minimal example you can share to show how those things are interconnected. So I believe this is all from my side. I would love to invite people who are watching this to stay tuned on the justjoin.it channel for more videos regarding some introductory topics. And Piotr, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your time and engagement into sharing those ideas. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. See you. Bye.
Thank you, Omar. Thanks, guys. Bye.